Recent reports have suggested exactly what a lot of us had figured, and that's that the formula that the Bulls front office has decided is going to work for them just simply isn't. We're going to break down everything you need to know on that on this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 80% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you aren't already subscribed, make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and every single time we upload, you'll be able to stay up to date with your Chicago Bulls and all of our takes here on Bulls Digest on them. So without further ado, let's get to the topic at hand there today, and that is, it's time for change. It's been too long that the Bulls have settled for mediocrity, in my personal opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. NBA insiders have even come out and said that what the Bulls is doing is idiotic. It doesn't make much sense to want to sit around this 500 dreams of playoff success and an underdog Cinderella run every single year. They need to either tank, make it on-the-fly really huge adjustment, or just simply go out and make some moves. None of these things have happened, and they've been happy just staying exactly where they are and hoping for players to develop or hoping for a miracle to happen. This article starts off by saying, the report emphasizes the Chicago Bulls formula for the season doesn't work. The Bulls need another blueprint at this point. And that's by Stephen Beslick of Sports Illustrated, taking an article from Bleacher Report. Now, normally Bleacher Report articles have to be taken with a grain of salt, of course, but this one is definitely warranted. As I read down through it, there were a lot of points that I agreed upon myself, which is why I wanted to bring to all of you here watching this video on Bulls Digest. The first thing we saw in it was, at this point, the Chicago Bulls' annual plan is to be competitive and nothing more or less. There is no talk of winning an NBA title or making a deep run in the playoffs. Instead, their main goal is apparently only to have a decent record and be in the middle of the pack. This has left experts dumbfounded and fans exasperated. A recent report on Bleacher Report emphasized that this so-called formula should be shelved if the Bulls hope to remain relevant. And it really should. A lot of people thought, including myself, that some moves would be made at the deadline, whether big or small. We hoped something would happen, but for the second straight year in a row, not just deadline, year in a row, that the Bulls have not made a deal. They haven't done anything at the deadline, and the moves that they've made, the team has been very good as of late. Struggled a little bit in Milwaukee, but I think he really does fit the lineup, and they haven't done much with Andrew Funk, but those are the only moves that they've made, and there's been so many absences due to injury in this lineup. More moves should have been made. The buyout market's not going to feature a superstar, but it could feature somebody that can provide some solid minutes immediately with their veteran experience. And the Bulls did not take on anything there, and have actually come out in a recent report that we covered here on Bulls Digest from Coach Billy Donovan saying they weren't even interested on anybody in the buyout market, which is not what us fans want to hear for sure. Next thing we saw on this was, the middle is no place to be for an NBA franchise. It's a place where players' careers go to die, and teams are stuck in mediocrity. Yet, for the past few seasons, that is exactly where the Bulls have found themselves, with records hovering around 500 and no real threat in the playoffs. The team has become stagnant. The Bulls front office seems content with this status quo, believing it's a sustainable model for success. But as we've seen time and time again, being just average isn't enough in a league filled with superstar players and stacked rosters. And the league continues to get better and better as super teams have really become a relevant thing around this league. It's really what every team tries to put together. It's not just a few good players and a solid overall roster like it was years ago in the NBA, which is where the mindset of the front office, I feel, is really stuck in. That success doesn't happen in the NBA anymore. You really need a team of very, very solid players, superstar players, put together, and that's how you're going to win a championship. Those are the teams that perform really well. You have to look at some advanced metrics, some more in-depth things. The numbers are very available, and there is no excuse why the Bulls can't try to make a competitive team better than the one they currently have. The numbers are available. Use them to your own resource and try to do something with this franchise. Next thing we saw on this was, with only a few changes, we could recycle the same arguments we've been making about the middling Chicago Bulls for the last several years. Winners of an average of 34 games per season, from 2015-16 to 2022-23. The Bulls are on pace to land in the upper 30s and possibly secure a play-in position, Grant Hughes wrote. In a best-case scenario, they'll somehow escape that preliminary round and get smashed to bits against the top seed. If they win a single playoff game this spring, it'll double their total of 1 since 2017. So the last time that the Bulls made the playoffs before a couple of years ago when Lonzo Ball went down with injury before the postseason and we got knocked out by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round was actually in 2017 against the Boston Celtics, where they had the quote-unquote big three of Rajon Rondo, Jimmy Butler, and Dwayne Wade. Past their prime for Rondo and Dwayne Wade, and Jimmy just entering it. It was not a big three. The team did not have much of any depth, and it wasn't the team to get things done. That team fell apart after just one season. Jimmy left in a trade for Zach Lavine and Lauri Markkanen in a draft pick, where we sent the Timberwolves, of course, Justin Patton, who didn't turn into anything. And then ever since, the Bulls have been even worse, even though they weren't that great since Derrick Rose has left the team. The team has tried to remain competitive since then and has not been willing to do a full-on tank. Even though the rosters that they had were not very good, they did not acquire the right draft assets and make the proper draft picks or trades in order to put them in the right position when they were trying to build around a young Zach Lavine, who had just come off of a torn ACL at the time. It's a very interesting decision for them to make even back then, and looking back on what they're doing even the past couple of years, it still doesn't make much sense. Ever since we tried to build this team with Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, and Vooch to team up with Zach Lavine, it was a bit of an odd fit, but they had great success with Lonzo Ball at point guard. But it's not too sure that he's even going to come back or be anywhere near the player that he was before injury. So they really need to move on from that, and if he comes back, then integrate him into the system. They need to build a new system right now. You can't stick where you are because it's going to be too late. Lonzo might come back and not be the player he was, and then this team is completely doomed for future success for years to come. Moves need to happen right now, and if they don't happen this offseason, it's going to be a very tough 2024-25 season for the Chicago Bulls. Next thing we saw here was, despite having some rising stars in Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, the Bulls do not have any discernible direction or identity as a team. They have been stuck for years, unable to make significant strides toward becoming a legitimate playoff contender, and things must change pronto. And that is absolutely correct. Nothing to argue with there. They do have some young guys coming up. Patrick Williams has not been the player we thought he was, but was efficient before this year. And before going down with injury, actually was starting to pick things up a little bit more, but I wouldn't bank on him too much. Julian Phillips is a little too early to tell, and Dalen Terry has come around a little bit, but they don't look like stars, either one of them so far, as things could definitely change, but right now that is my opinion on them currently. Looking at Dosunmu, he looks like a very solid player, but not a star either. Kobe White's been on a slight slump lately. I do think he'll pick up the play that he was on when Zach Lavine was out, and hopefully that will make a big change for them there. But overall, this team doesn't have too much going into the future, as DeMar DeRozan is expired at the end of the season and is aging, and Vucevic isn't getting any younger either. They need to make something happen again. I can't stress this enough. It needs to happen right now. Last thing we saw in this article was, so here's the current reality. The Bulls don't compete with the best teams. There are few encouraging signs, Kobe White's emergence chief among them, also don't come close to offsetting the bleakness of the franchise's broader future. Patrick Williams, the number 4 pick in 2020, is out for the year. No team is in greater need of a reality check, and a whole bunch of losses that precede a full teardown, Hughes surmised. So that's also very accurate. I mean, that is pretty much what we just talked about a minute ago before reading that part of the article there. But the Bulls simply don't have what it takes right now. I hope they can make some noise in the playoffs, but my doubts are very high because of the lack of moves that they've tried to make at the deadline. However, let me know what you thought about all this down below in the comments. I want to hear from all you guys. I want to hear exactly what you think the Bulls should do, or if they've made the right choices in your opinion, and maybe the media, including myself, is just wrong on this front. Let me know everything that you got to feel down below in the comments section. Like the video if you did enjoy what you watched there today. Subscribe to the channel, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. This is your host, Joey Mercer, signing off.